Hey guys, welcome to today's video. Today I wanted to talk to you guys about a topic that I've kind of had on my mind for the last little bit. I wanted to talk a little bit about just how influences from others can impact our end results and what we're ultimately looking to accomplish or achieve in our life. Um, as many of you guys know, I am a recovering alcoholic and drug addict. And one thing that I've come to realize is we all have the ability of influencing each other. Um, there's a famous quote out there that talks about that the top 5 people make up the sum or average of who you are or who you become. And for me, when you break that down, how I interpret that is just the fact that the people that I keep closest to me are the people who are going to be influencing me on a regular basis, and I'm going to begin to emulate those behaviors or be similar to those individuals. And so if I'm associating myself with someone who has behaviors that are destructive, it's going to increase my chances of emulating some of those self-destructive behaviors. Same thing on the flip side. If I associate myself with someone who is very successful and is responsible and caring, then I'm going to be more likely to emulate those behaviors. I remember back in the day when I very first got sober, and I got sober for 4 years. During that time period, my mom would always tell me that I needed to make sure that the friends that I was hanging out with didn't drink or do drugs. I needed to make sure that if I were to date someone, that I needed to make sure that I was dating someone who wasn't a big partier, who didn't drink all the time. And at the time, like I just kind of brushed it off, and I would tell my mother that, you know what, like I need to respect everybody for their beliefs or for who they are. But by not following those pieces of advice from my mom, I really was kind of setting myself up for failure. Ultimately, I ended up making the decision to start drinking again. I was dating someone who was a drinker and occasionally did drugs. And that ended up resulting in me being self-destructive in a lot of my behaviors. And by doing so, and by making that conscious decision to start drinking again, I ended up making a decision to start doing crystal meth, which led me to becoming a full-blown crystal meth addict. And over this past little while, I've done a lot of soul searching and just trying to figure out what it is that I want for myself and who I truly am, and how to achieve some of my goals to be the best possible version of myself. And so one thing that I've done is I've really began to detract myself from the gay community. Everyone knows, or at least it's a stereotype out there, that a lot of people in the gay community drink, do drugs, they party a lot, they have promiscuous sex. And not only that, but there's a lot of people who are in relationships who don't necessarily who aren't necessarily in monogamous relationships. And not saying that any of that is bad, and at the end of the day, what people choose to do with their lives or how to live their lives is entirely up to them. But those behaviors don't align with my values and what I ultimately want. And so over this past little while, I've made it a point to not saturate myself in the gay community. I don't go to gay bars anymore. And I've kind of been a little worried because, in a sense, I feel like I'm almost judging other people, saying, "Oh, well, this person drinks, or they do have promiscuous sex or have an open relationship. And I almost, like, it bothered me because I felt like I was placing judgment on other people, and I didn't like that because I don't consider myself a judgmental person. One thing that I found is that you tend to get what you focus on. If you focus on hanging out with people who live that party lifestyle, or exhibit some of those behaviors, then one day you're ultimately going to be influenced by them. And for me, I've struggled with drugs and alcohol my entire life. I've used sex as a coping mechanism as well. And I truly believe that a big reason for that is just because of the fact that I've made a conscious decision to associate myself with people who exhibited those behaviors, even if they didn't align with my values. And one thing that I've done recently, because I've gone back and forth and said, well, I want to surround myself with this good group of people, but I also don't want to feel like I'm judging other people. And at the end of the day, the conclusion that I've come to is that everyone is on their own journey, myself included. And I've been down a path, and I've been able to figure out what works in my life and what doesn't. What are the aspects or characteristics that I want to exhibit in order for me to obtain the goals that I ultimately want to achieve. And that's helped me to be able to accept everyone for who they are and for the choices that they make. And just because they make a choice doesn't necessarily mean that it's a bad choice, but it's definitely something that I still have to keep at the forefront of my mind and make sure that I'm still surrounding myself with people who are going to be that positive influence on me. One thing that I've thought about is, so anytime for those of you guys who are familiar with AA, AA specifically teaches you to make sure that you find a sponsor. And when you look for a sponsor, one of the things that they teach you is to look for somebody who has what you want. And that never really made sense to me until this past little while, when I really started looking at influences in my life and what I want ultimately for myself. And if I continue to surround myself with people who do consistently drink or do use drugs, or have promiscuous sex or open relationships, like I said, I can still respect those people for their decisions, but if that's who I'm constantly associating myself with, then I'm ultimately going to end up being influenced by that. And so I've had to make a lot of tough decisions, and I've had to really evaluate who I associate with on a regular basis. I'm not saying that I can't associate with some of those individuals that have differences in opinions, but my core group of people who I surround myself with, I need to make sure that they are exhibiting behaviors that are going to align with my values and ultimately help me in achieving some of those goals. I mean, one day I want to have a family and I want to have children. One thing that I've done is tried to associate myself more with my family and even other families. I have a close friend, him and his wife had a baby, and one thing I thought to myself is, well, if I want to have children one day, then it would probably be a good idea for me to spend more time with them. So I've offered to babysit their little boy a couple times, and I think that helps keep that lifestyle that I want for myself kind of at the forefront of my mind. So that way, as I'm setting goals for myself, I'm continuing to be influenced by people who are living that life that I ultimately want. At the end of the day, we get what we focus on, and I want to make sure that I'm doing everything possible to maintain my sobriety. I've gotten to a point to where I've struggled with addiction for the majority of my life, and I'm 34 years old now. I don't have the luxury of trying things the way that I always have, because if I do that, I'm going to get the same results. And I'm at a point where I'm quite literally willing to do anything to make sure that I never go down the path that I went down before. Going through my addiction to not only alcohol but crystal meth was probably the hardest thing I've ever gone through. And they tell you in AA that once you're willing, and once you get to a point to where you're willing to literally do anything, then that's when you're going to succeed. And I can tell you right now that I am to that point, and that's why I'm looking outside the box. I'm evaluating different situations and people that I associate with, because if I go down that road again, it's very likely I won't ever recover or come back. To be quite frank, I'm lucky to be alive today with some of the things that I've been through. And so, yeah, I guess I want to kind of wrap up just with surrounding yourself with who you want to become, and finding people who have what you want so that you can attract that into your life. So, anyway, I hope this has been a helpful video. If you guys like it, please make sure that you share, like it, and if you have any comments, definitely make sure that you leave those for me. I'd love to hear your guys' feedback. And if you have any topics that you'd like me to talk about or discuss, please let me know, and I would be happy to put them on the agenda. So, thanks for watching, guys, and have an amazing day.